Louisville, Cal, and Washington each scored 2 commitments, while the Oregon Ducks secure a 2027 commitment.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Today's show, the Recruiting Blitz here on the Portal Podcast, it's about doubles. We have 3 different teams with 2 commitments: Louisville, Cal, and Washington. We also have Northwestern and Purdue, and in the class of 27, the Oregon Ducks get a big splash for them as well. So let's start off with Louisville. I love it when teams get defensive linemen and offensive linemen, so this is an easy pick for me. They get 2 guys in the trenches on the defensive side of the football. Jeff Brom and the Cardinals getting it done. First player that I want to talk about is out of North Hardin High School in Radcliffe, Kentucky, 6'3", 300 pounds. And I'll be honest, that kind of an area doesn't get a lot of attention, the state of Kentucky. That's fine. But you put on the film and it's really obvious why he was heavily coveted. Josiah Hope is a dude. That's going to be an early impact guy for them. Sophomore year, I would suspect he will be competing for playing time, if not a starting role. Don't like to say freshmen are going to come in and play right away, but if he did, Josiah Hope, yeah, it wouldn't shock me either. Again, 6'3", 300, very nimble, up the field, 3-tech. That's a kid they even play at defensive end at North Hardin High School, and he's 300 pounds. That's a pretty unique situation. I don't see a lot of kids doing that at over 250 very well, let alone 300 pounds. So props to Mr. Hope. He is quite the prospect, going to stay home and play for the Louisville Cardinals. They also go to Trotwood Madison High School, just outside of Dayton. That's a program that's had players forever. Jamarcus Weiss, defensive lineman, 6'2", 265. He's one of those guys that's get up the field, create havoc. Louisville wants speed, athleticism. Quickness and athleticism overall is their number one thing over the size and sheer girth. But if you put him next to a guy like Hope, then you make it even easier. You've got 2 athletic guys coming at you from the interior. Maybe he plays a little strong side end, depending on how they want to run their scheme. But Louisville, again, 2 defensive linemen in the same 24-hour period. I'm sure that Coach Brom is very, very happy. That is the difference, folks, in college football. I'm going to talk about that more here pretty soon on a podcast that I have dedicated to linemen. But if you are not recruiting linemen at a high clip from the prep level, your chances of advancing in the college football playoff are extremely slim. And that's being kind. If you do not recruit, especially O-linemen at an elite level, you're in trouble, but D-line pretty close to it as well. So we'll get into that a little bit more. Again, I got that podcast coming up here on the Portal Podcast pretty soon. Next, let's talk a little bit about the Washington Huskies. Speaking of size, Dominic Harris, 6'7", 335. He's out of Clark High School in Las Vegas. Auburn was his other official visit. This is an earth mover, 6'7", 335. That is not a small man. Pretty impressed with the fact that Washington could get him. This is a kid that had offers from programs all over the place. They're putting together a pretty good offensive line. It's going to be one of the better O-line classes in the country. And if Washington wants to compete at the upper echelon of the Big Ten, I think this is how you do it. You've got to have guys that can play in the cold weather. You have to have guys that can pound it out and run that 4-minute offense at the end of the game to keep the other team from getting the ball back. Dominic Harris will help you do that. They also get Gavin Day, another kid from Las Vegas, but this time from Faith Lutheran, 6'3", 190 pounds safety. So 2 scores out of Las Vegas for the Washington Huskies. Moving over to Cal, Victor Santino. I love this running back pickup for the Cal Bears. He's out of Bishop Montgomery in Torrance, California. I flipped on his film and I was like, whoa, this kid makes one cut and he hits the gas and he is gone. I don't expect Mr. Santino to sit the bench all that long. Not many kids are going to have the ability to burst away like he does. And he's a kid that's played against pretty good competition too. So Victor Santino will be a Bear, and I expect him to get on the field soon. Nehemiah Talona, defensive lineman, 6'2", 285 from De La Salle. Yes, the one in Northern California that's famous, that had the movie after it, didn't lose a game for over 10 years. That same program, 6'2", 285, defensive lineman. Cal Bears keep one fairly close to home there in the Bay Area. And finally, let's just get into the Big Ten. We've got Purdue and we've got Northwestern. First, for the Boilermakers, Mr. Young, Cardinal Mooney High School down in Sarasota. This is a good player. Purdue is rebuilding. They need players pretty much across the board, not just any one spot. But Young is a guy that has the athleticism, playing at Mooney, playing at a school that has kind of reinvented itself here recently. Jared Clark, former player there, went to Notre Dame as the head coach. They've got a pretty good roster. Purdue dips into Florida. And then Northwestern going down into the Houston area. Fort Bend Travis, 6 foot, 185 pounds. Davis Kinney, wide receiver. Didn't really expect to see a lot of that, but just outside of Houston, Northwestern picks up a commitment from one of the better receivers in South Texas. And to finish off, the Oregon Ducks, class of 2027, they get a defensive end recruit in Prince Tavazon, defensive end out of Lincoln High School in San Diego. That is the same high school as numerous other players that have come out of there for over the years that went on to do great things. But I think I'll just go out on a limb here. The greatest player out of that school is none other than Marcus Allen, if I remember correctly, the Hall of Famer, former Heisman winner for the USC Trojans. This has been the Recruiting Blitz, and I'm probably going to have another one of these later today. Just wanted to have a quick hitter to kind of give you an overview of what's going on with that. And I'm going to, I'm going to add a little something to it, just from some cliff notes for fun. But again, really good chance there's going to be another Recruiting Blitz later today, because kids are committing after the weekends. Georgia had a big weekend, Ohio State, Auburn, Georgia, Miami, several schools around the country had visits. It's inevitable there's going to be more commits, probably about the time I finish this podcast, if not even during. So just a couple of cliff notes here I had from earlier. Caden Prothrow, the flex tight end out of Bowden High School in Georgia. I've been to see him several times. Great kid. He took his OB to see Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. All went well. I did not, prior to the visit, and still don't, believe he's going to make a commitment soon. Auburn and Florida, among others, are still very much involved. And from the last time I talked to Prothrow a couple of weeks ago, Bama and Texas were also likely visits unless something changes. This could go into July or maybe longer, but probably July. We'll see how that goes. I'm curious to see where he ends up, because this is a kid that is an instant impact player. And Georgia just lost their other really prime tight end target, kid that went to Mater Dei, he's going to sign with the Trojans. So in-state kid, you were expected to get him anyway, but this is a battle for Kirby Smart and the Dogs. They need to win this one. Also, the University of Miami, they had a bunch of kids on campus. I don't know which young man is likeliest to commit, but I do want to focus on a few key players here. Before anybody really asks, no, I don't have any predictions on commitments. It's just that they're in on so many. It's will they get multiple that other people, myself included, honestly, did not expect the Miami Hurricanes to land. Here's an example. Tristan Keys, wide receiver, and in my opinion, the number one receiver in the country for the class of 26 out of Hattiesburg High School. This is a big-time player. Committed to LSU, though. Ole Miss is still after him. Tennessee, Auburn, Bama, everybody you can imagine is still trying to court this young man. But he's been to Miami's campus not once, not twice, but 3 times since the beginning of the year. This being the third, the official visit. So we'll see what happens with that. But Tristan Keys is a really good football player, and I just don't know if LSU is going to hold on to him or not. Wouldn't shock me if Miami was to fly in the ointment there if he did flip. But right now, again, he is committed to the LSU Tigers. Speaking of LSU, Lamar Brown is from Baton Rouge, one of the top interior offensive line, defensive line candidates in the country. He just took his official visit to Miami. LSU and Texas A&M are the most likely destinations if you listen to all the different people. but I've had a chance to interview Lamar before. Pretty good kid, really down to earth. He doesn't know where he's going, but the Miami visit impressed him. They could be a wild card there as well. And then Anthony Jones out of St. Paul's Episcopal. This is a kid in Mobile that has been recruited for years. Everybody knew he was going to be a special pass rusher, 6'5", 235. Don't know if he was a guy that expected to be this good, but I remember seeing his film like as a sophomore. I'm like, okay, this is not rough to figure out. Having met him, been around him, it's the kind of personality you want on your team. Bama and Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, those are some of the programs getting thrown around with him. But Miami gets the official visit again. At some point, they're going to get one of these guys. I don't know which one it is, but we'll see. Miami certainly has the opportunity to have a big-time class. But if they're going to get in that top 5 or be in that conversation for it, I think right now they're somewhere between 7 and 10 on all the recruiting networks. I would say most likely that they've got to get a couple of these kind of level of players because it's top-heavy with the programs right now like USC, Notre Dame, Ohio State, etc. Just ahead of them, they're going to need a few 5 stars to make it. Thank you once again for making the Recruiting Blitz your first listen each and every day here on the Portal Podcast. Just trying to get in all that I can. It's going to be a little more sporadic over the next few weeks. Going to do these shows as the commitments happen, discuss them, who's trending where and why. Normally it's around 11 a.m. Eastern that I do the audio and at noon on YouTube, but it could literally be at any time over the next month because I don't get to pick when the commitments happen. I just try to get a show up as quickly as I can. So we still have a lot of different things to go over, a lot of different recruits to discuss in terms of their commitments. And at the back half of this month, there will be plenty of that. So thank you once again. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast.